How much does it cost to evict a tenant? Eviction is an unpleasant word. It conjures up images of uncaring landlord putting an unfortunate tenant out on the streets. It's true that there are cases of unfair evictions, but for the most part, rental housing legislation now provides considerable protection to tenants, prevents the abuse of power by landlords that sometimes happened in the past. The law protects tenants, but it also assures property owners of certain rights. If you own property and it provides you with valuable income, you're entitled to enjoy your property and benefit financially from it without suffering misuse or abuse at the hands of your tenants. If the worst happens and you need to evict your tenants, what is the cost of eviction? When should you consult an eviction attorney? If the landlord-tenant relationship is harmonious and both parties uphold the lease agreement, the word eviction is unlikely to arise. Eviction is the last resort when there is an unresolved breach of the lease. A breach can happen for a number of reasons, which may include failure to maintain the property or adhere to the conditions of the lease, but the most common cause for eviction is default in payment of rent. However, a landlord cannot simply evict a tenant for rent arrears. In fact, a landlord can't evict a tenant at all. Only the courts can do that. However tempting it may be to do it yourself, eviction is a legal process and it requires an eviction attorney. While you may wish to avoid eviction costs, delay in consulting an eviction lawyer can be a false economy. As the rent arrears pile up, you are losing money that may never be recovered. Spending money on expert eviction attorneys will ensure a speedier, smoother course of action and is likely to save you money in the long run by limiting your losses and restoring the property to its income earning status. Now, how much does an eviction cost? The cost of an eviction will depend on the complexity of the situation. If a tenant is very stubborn and refuses to vacate the property, eviction costs can mount. An unopposed eviction will cost between or upwards of 20,000 Rand. However, if the eviction is opposed, the cost can escalate to as much as upwards of 50,000 and the months can drag on. This is not a job for a lay person. Provided your eviction attorney follows the correct process, the court will award the eviction order eventually, but getting the tenant out is another matter. Call the sheriff. The court may grant your eviction order, but if the tenants simply dig their heels in and refuse to move, you may not legally remove them or their possessions from your property yourself. Only the sheriff is authorized to do this. If you need the services of the sheriff to forcibly effect the eviction, the cost will depend on the size of the property and the number of tenants. You can expect to pay from 1 to 10,000 Rand in sheriff's costs. Now, women and children first. Remember that PI gives special consideration to vulnerable tenants, women-headed households with children, the elderly and the disabled. So while you are not prohibited from evicting these tenants, if they are in breach of the lease, you must allow them more time to find suitable alternative accommodation. This will add to your lost earnings and effectively increase the eviction cost, although it won't generate additional legal costs. Can you claim the eviction cost from the tenant? While it may be technically possible to reclaim eviction charges from the tenant, in reality you are very unlikely to succeed in recouping your costs. If your tenant has defaulted on rent due to inability to pay, you may struggle even to recover the rent you are due. Expecting a financially stressed individual to come up with a 5-figure sum in addition to unpaid rent is fanciful. You could sue for it, but the result will be the same. You can't get blood out of a stone. Now, consult a good eviction attorney. As I've highlighted, an eviction lawyer is essential if you have a troublesome tenant who doesn't respond to reason, and eviction is your only recourse. You can attempt to obtain an eviction order from the court yourself, but if you are not well versed in rental housing law, your chances of success are much reduced. An eviction lawyer knows the intricacies of PI and will make sure you don't lose your case on a technicality. Furthermore, an eviction attorney will save you money despite the fee charged. If your rental income is 10 to 20,000 Rand per month, it won't take many months of rent arrears to lose you far more than your eviction will cost in legal fees. Now, my firm, SD Law, are experts in eviction law and will make sure your property is returned to its income earning status as soon as possible. You can contact one of our eviction attorneys on 086 099 5146 or by email.